Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. Talking about the bill in the legislature. It'll be debated again tomorrow. It was resurrected yesterday. This bill would ban child marriage in Tennessee. It has gotten a lot of national attention because at one point it was sent off to summer study, which means basically it was killed. Now, after all of that attention, it has been brought back up. We have the two sponsors of the bill, Senator Jeff Yarbro and Representative Darren Jernigan, here talking about it. And an interesting discussion on Facebook and here with the phones. Let's go back to the phones and Bob. Hello, Bob.
Yes, hello.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I would like to thank both the gentlemen for participating today. One of the things that I've noticed, I'm a 40-year-old man, 45 or what have you, the people who've been influential in my life are older people who give me inspiration, and that being my great-grandparents whom I knew, and they were married since they were 15 years old. And then my grandparents, whom are still alive, and they're in their late 80s, they too married when they were 15, 16 years old. And my mother and father, who married in the 70s, 1970s, and they married at a very young age, 16 and 18. All of those marriages lasted, every one of them. I don't see what is wrong with that.
Do you think then this bill is unnecessary?
I don't know what is the purpose of the bill. I can see that there are bad things in the world that happen to people, but disallowing two young people to fall in love and make it a criminal act is unnecessary in my mind. I'll give you an example of, I'm sure everyone on the panel and even the listeners abroad have at one time had a crush in their teenage years that, had they been allowed by their parents or society to say, you're not too young to do this, or you're not educated enough, it possibly could have turned around and been different. Society has changed since those days of simple farm living and not being on social media and whatnot.
Right.
But we don't need to, in my opinion, and I think other people would agree, that waiting until you're 30, 40, 50 years old to make a decision on whether you're going to love someone is out of the question.
Is not the way to go. Okay, Bob, I appreciate that call. And so, all right, so you heard what he said there.
Again, I'm going to go with what would have been the harm of waiting. I don't know what the circumstances were for them at that time. My wife's grandparents, they're about to celebrate 73 years of marriage, 18 and 16. Now, as far as high school crushes that he was talking about, I can think of a couple of girlfriends I was madly in love with, and I thank the Lord for unanswered prayers that I didn't get married to one of those two girls. But I just know that it was a different time. I don't know what their circumstances were, but why? I don't understand the harm of waiting till you're just a little bit older.
Yeah, David McPeak here on Facebook says, my grandmother was 15 when she got married. That was 1925. They never separated.
And that's great.
And that is absolutely, I think that we've talked to people in the legislature, and I think in our own families, if you go back and look, there were going to be marriages that started at 15 and 16. But again, the world was a lot different at that point in time. And today, if you're a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, you can't enter a binding lease for an apartment. You can't enter into a lease on a car and be held to it. You can't go to, you can't get a tattoo. We don't allow you under the law to make any legally binding decisions except to get married. And it strikes me as inappropriate that we're going to hold marriage to a lower standard than we hold every other decision. when it comes to this. And that's the one decision that we're going to let minors make that lasts forever.
And I'll mention again, women at that time had very few rights. I mean, they at all. Now they do. I teach my girls to be independent and forthright, and no boy tells them what to go, what to do, and how to do it, except for me. But so they have a mindset of being independent and forthright that they can go out and 50, 60 years ago, that wasn't the case for a woman.
Times have definitely changed.
It changed, absolutely.
All right, let's go to Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hello, Lucy.
Hey, I definitely have an opinion on this and some other experiences. You know,
Okay.
when I first heard about this the other day, I was trying to find an article, to me, that covers this. Back in 1981, on June 27th, the New York Times did a story on the front page. And at that time, for about 15 years, a lot of parents in the United States were trying to get their children back that had gotten caught up in this group. And since then, this same group has gotten a lot of power and a lot of different avenues in this country. One thing they were holding out on were in the states in which they lived in, their children had to be 18 years of age to get married. And I really thought that it was older here, except for by a judge. Now, I've known several cases of one guy in particular back in the day that was a pedophile that used this and the judge at his convenience to marry these 12-year-old girls. I think he did it 4 or 5 times in 10 years.
Well, that's crazy.
Well, yeah, and then I also will say this. When I was a teenager, they were still putting men in jail here that did that to young girls, left them with the babies and wouldn't support them, and they put them in the workhouse for $11.29. What good that did, I didn't understand. But the girl was out again. And I came up in an era that once you married, you didn't leave your husband, you stayed with him. And I have talked to women here just recently that are in their 50s and 60s and have told me, you don't understand what it's like. When your husband rolls over and he wants sex from you, you have got to do your duty. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I don't understand. I understand that. No is no. Now, you might have been married at an early age and been led to think that you're your husband's property, but my dad is
So,
like...
Lucy, you're opposed to this. You think no.
Yes, because it's a wide open thing. If you've got money, the way they're running these judges' races now, and you're a pedophile, you can get out of jail free with using the judge to get you.
All right. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you as always for the call. You know, what do you think?
Well, I want to respond to that because I think Lucy, raises what was an important point. Some of the people who've expressed, sort of a desire to keep the old law kind of have this Romeo and Juliet notion. I guess in fairness, Romeo and Juliet did not turn out that well for them. But this teenage love thing, this is not how this statute is used today. 85% of these marriages are underage girls marrying adult men. Over 30% of them are marrying adult men over the age of 21. We know that it's been used to marry victims to their rapist. We know that it's been used to authorize relationships that are that would otherwise constitute statutory rape or sexual assault in Tennessee, and we know that it's been used by people in positions of authority to marry people that are under sort of their influence, and that's the reality of this. And so I think Lucy has to sort of get past. I think we may have a romantic notion about what this was like for our grandparents, but what this is being used for almost all the time today is bad news for people.
Right. All right, we're going to take a break. Hold on the line, Wayne and others. Hold on the line if you want to comment. We'll take your call. Also, I'll read some more comments here on Facebook. Appreciate that conversation. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.